Hello. 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 I think I can see the stream going a lot smoother this time. I don't know. When I saw the footage, of the VOD, it was absolute garbage. Like straight up, literally 1 frame per second, and bits of audio like every 1.5 seconds. Total garbage. But as I'm seeing the stream on my computer and on YouTube, things are kind of flowing pretty okay right now. I just had to straight up double, triple check to see if the audio and whatever is gonna be going on here is going smoothly. Okay, so let's see. Picking up the book right now and then flip, drop, and then let's see. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. You know what? I just think, oh my god, this is straight up 100% better than yesterday. Holy crap. I think we could actually get started on Fahrenheit 451 now. So yes, hello everyone. It's me, ThomasTubeHD, and welcome back to another live stream. And finally, today we will be getting into Fahrenheit 451. After part 0 yesterday, we read the entire outside of the book to see what's on it before going into the full book, because that stream was a test stream to see if things can go smoothly, and it did not. But I think we could make up some time now that the stream is flowing a lot more smoothly, I think. Can't tell if it's actually going smoothly, or I don't know. I don't trust what's going on with OBS right now. I'm just looking at the actual live stream itself on YouTube. I don't trust what's going on. Might hear some echoing because I'm just listening to turn up the volume on the live stream on my computer, which is also where I'm live streaming this right now. But we're just gonna roll right into this. Okay, so yeah, if you missed yesterday's live streams, we're just gonna go straight into this. So yeah, Fahrenheit 451 is named that because it's the temperature at which books will burn, or at least catches fire and burns. Which I don't think that's the case. It's in actual temperature. It's this, and in Celsius it's 230 or so degrees, which I would think it would not only catch books on fire at that temperature, it will also just straight up instant burn it and turn it into ash and dust. So yeah, not quite accurate on the temperature, the burning temperature of paper, but whatever. Fahrenheit 451, written by Ray Bradbury. And on the back, we're just gonna read through all of this because yesterday was very bad. Anyway, so on the back we have frightening in its implications about Mr. Burry's account of this insane world, which bears many alarming resemblance to our own, is fascinating. Ray Bradbury's internationally acclaimed novel Fahrenheit 451 is a masterwork of 20th century literature set in a bleak, dystopian future. Guy Montag is a fireman in his world where television rules and literature is on the brink of extinction. Firemen start fires rather than put them out. His job is to destroy the most illegal commodities, the printed book, along with the houses in which they are hidden. Montag never questions the destruction and ruin his actions produce, returning each day to his bland life and wife, Mildred, who spends all day with her television family. But then he meets an eccentric young neighborhood, Clarence, who introduces him to a past where people didn't live in fear, and to a present where one sees the world through the ideas in books instead of the mindless chatter of television. When Mildred attempts suicide and Clarence suddenly disappears, Montag begins to question everything he has ever known. He starts hiding books in his home, and when his pilfering is discovered, the fireman has to run for his life. Ray Bradbury lived from 1920 to 2012, was the author of more than 36 books, including The Martian Chronicles, The Illustrated Man, The Dandelion Wine, and Something Wicked This Way Comes, as well as hundreds of short stories. He wrote for the theater, cinema, and TV, including the screenplay for John Hudson's Moby Dick and the Emmy Award-winning teleplay The Halloween Tree, and adapted for television 65 of his stories for the Ray Bradbury Theater. He was the recipient of the 2000 National Book Foundational Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters, the 2007 Pulitzer Prize Special Citation, and numerous other honors. So that's the other honors. Getting like kind of scared by the fact that the frames, the video that is playing right now as the live stream goes on is like kind of freezing. It's kind of like freezing. You can hear my audio clearly, but I don't know, the frames seem to be just for some reason sometimes frozen. But anyways, yeah, that's the outside of the book. Quickly gone through again. Let's actually get in this. So nothing here, and then over here we got all the stuff Ray Bradbury has ever made. The novels he had are should I elevate? Like the distance between the camera and the book makes the words very small to see on the live stream, but we're just gonna float it like this, and then we're just gonna continue on. His novels include The Martian Chronicles, Fahrenheit 451, which is we're currently reading, Dandelion Wine, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Death is a Lonely Business, A Graveyard for Lunatics, Great Green Shadows, White Whale, From the Dust Returned, Let's All Kill Constance, Feral Summer, Ahmed and the Oblivion Machines, A Fable. Those are his novels, and the short story collections he has are The Dark Carnival, The Illustrated Man, The Golden Apples of the Sun, The October Country, A Medicine for Mackie, R is for Racket, The Machineries of Joy, The Autumn People, The Vintage Bradbury, S is for Space, Twice 22, I Sing the Body Electric, Long After Midnight, The Small Assassin, The Mummies of Guanajuato, Beyond 1984, The Remembrance of Things Future. It's got on for 1984. Interesting. Must be a 1984 fanfic. At the attic where the meadow greens. The Ghosts of Forever, The Last Circus and Electrocution, The Stories of Ray Bradbury, his autobiography maybe. The Complete Poems of Ray Bradbury, The Love Affair, Dinosaur Tales, A Memory of Murder, The Climate of Palettes, Classic Stories 1, Classic Stories 1, Classic Stories 2, Quicker Than the Eye, Driving Blind, Ray Bradbury Collected Stories. These are like compilations of his works, maybe. One More for the Road, Bradbury's Stories. Others' stories in these stories? I don't know. The Cat's Pajamas, The Sound of Thunder and Other Stories. The Dragon Who Ate His Tail, Now and Forever, Summer Morning, Summer Night, We'll Always Have Paris, A Pleasure to Burn. Those are his short story collections. And then his non-fictions, The Essence of Creative Writing, Zen and the Art of Writing, The God in Science Fiction, Yestermorrow, Bradbury Speaks. So those are all of his works that he has done throughout his life. And I don't think I will probably reading like pretty much I will probably not be reading every single one of these at all. I'm just only interested in Fahrenheit 451, which I think every writer and author will probably follow along the same line of just having, out of all of their works, they will have at least one that they are most famous for. Which in Ray Bradbury's case, it is true. So let's finally get into this. Right, the title card, Fahrenheit 451. Fahrenheit 451, the temperature at which book paper catches fire and burns. Fahrenheit might be adjusted over the past century, and this temperature might about the burning temperature of books may be wrong, but I don't care. I'm just gonna say it's just the temperature at which books just instantly turn to ash and dust. It's all the copyright stuff. This one, with gratitude, is for Don Condon. Okay. Now the contents. There's only 3 chapters in this. Each are like, one is 67 pages long, the other is 40, and the last one is, I don't know. So the last one has 50 pages. Right, so these are the chapters we're going to have to get through for the next few live streams. They will not probably happen in like one after another, but we will definitely be reading every single page of this book. And also for people wondering why I'm deciding to all of a sudden read books for live streams is because, you know, I just like near the end of like secondary school, I just developed this habit, this therapy of just picking up a book that I just think I really want to read, and then just go through literally every single part of it. It's not that I enjoy reading books, but I just want to read books just to get something that I know they can give me. To get something that I know that they can give me. So yeah. Let's get into the first chapter, the hearth and the salamander. If they give you ruled paper, write the other way. Right. Chapter 1, the hearth and the salamander. Let's check whether you guys could. I'm just gonna read it like this for now, and then we're just gonna slightly adjust the book every time while we're reading through this. But anyways, here we go. Okay, the hearth and the salamander. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and change. With the brass notes in his fist, with this great python splitting its venomous cuirass upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. That's quite a start. With his symbolic helmet numbered 451 on his stolid head, and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next, he flicked the igniter, and the house jumped up in a gorging fire that burned it the evening sky red and yellow and black. He strode in a swarm of fireflies. He wanted, above all, like the old joke, to shove a marshmallow on a stick in the furnace, while the flapping pigeon-winged books died on the porch and lawn of the house, while the books went up in a sparkling whirls and blew up on a wind-turned dock with burning. Montag grinned the fierce grin of all men singed and driven back by the flame. He knew that when he returned to the firehouse, he might wink at himself, a ministerial man, burnt corked in the mirror. Later, going to sleep, he would feel feel the fiery smile still gripped by his face muscles in the dark. It never went away, that smile. It never ever went away, as long as he remembered. He hung up his black beetle-colored helmet and shined it. He hung his flame-proof jacket neatly. He showered luxuriously, and then, whistling, hands in pockets, walked across the upper floor of the firehouse and fell down the hole. At the last moment, when disaster seemed positive, he pulled his hands from his pockets and broke his fall by grasping the golden pole. He slid to a squeaking halt, the heels 1 inch from the concrete floor downstairs. He walked out the fire station along the midnight street toward the subway, where the silent air-propelled train slid soundlessly down its lubricated flue in the earth and let him out with a great puff of warm air onto the cream-tiled escalator rising to the suburb. Whistling, and he let the escalator wave him into the still night air. He walked toward the corner, thinking little at all about nothing in particular. Before he reached the corner, however, he slowed as if a wind had sprung up from nowhere, as if someone had called his name. The last few nights he had had the most uncertain feelings about the sidewalk just around the corner here, moving in the starlight toward his home. He had felt that a moment prior to his making the turn, someone had been there. The air seemed charged with a special calm, as if someone had waited there quietly, and only a moment before he came, simply turned to a shadow and let him through. Perhaps his nose detected a faint perfume. Perhaps the skin on the backs of his hands, on his face, felt the temperature rise at this one spot where a person standing might raise the immediate atmosphere 10 degrees for an instant. There was no understanding of it. Each time he made the turn, he saw only the white, unused, buckling sidewalk, with perhaps, on one night, something vanishing swiftly towards a lawn before he could focus his eyes or speak. But now today, he slowed almost to a stop, his inner mind reaching out to turn the corner for him, had heard the faintest whisper, breathing, or was the atmosphere compressed merely by someone standing very quietly there, waiting? He turned the corner. The autumn leaves blew over the moonlit pavement in such a way as to make the girl who was moving there seem fixed to a sliding walk. letting the motion of the wind and the leaves carry her forward. Her head was half bent to watch her shoes stir the circling leaves. Her face was slender and milk white, and in it was a kind of gentle hunger that touched over everything with tireless curiosity. It was a look almost of pale surprise. The dark eyes were so fixed to the world that no move escaped them. Her dress was white, and it whispered. He almost thought he heard the motion of her hands as she walked, the infinitely small sound now, the white stir of her face turning when she discovered she was a movement away from a man who stood in the middle of the pavement, waiting. The trees overhead made a great sound of letting down their dry rain. The girl stopped and looked as if she might pull back in surprise, but instead stood regarding Montag with eyes so dark and shining and alive that he felt he had something quite wonderful. But he knew his mouth had only moved to say hello, and then, when she seemed hypnotized by the salamander on his arm and the phoenix disc on his chest, he spoke again. "Of course," he said, "you're our new neighbor, aren't you? And you must be," she raised her eyes from her professional symbols, "the fireman." Her voice trailed off. "How oddly you say that. I have known it with my eyes shut," she said slowly. "What? The smell of kerosene?" "My wife always complains." He laughed. "You never washed it off completely." "No, you don't," she said in awe. He felt she was walking in a circle about him, turning him end for end, shaking him quietly, and emptying his pockets without once moving herself. "Kerosene," he said, because the silence had lengthened, "is nothing but perfume to me." "Does it seem like that really?" "Of course, why not?" She gave herself time to think of it. "I don't know." She turned to face the sidewalk going toward their homes. "Do you mind if I walk back with you? I'm Clarence McClellan." "Clarence, Guy Montag, come along. What are you doing out so late wandering around? How old are you?" They walked in the warm, cool, blowing night on the silvered pavement, and there was the faintest breath of fresh apricots and strawberries in the air, and he looked around and realized this was quite impossible, so late in the year. Okay, so far we have seen Montag do his job, and then he's just now walking back home, and then met a character that will be quite important later on. But for now, they are neighbors. There was only the girl walking with him now, her face bright as snow in the moonlight, and he knew she was working his questions around, seeking the best answers she could possibly give. "Well," she said, "I'm 17 and I'm crazy. My uncle says the two always go together. When people ask your age," he said, "yeah, always say 17 and insane. Isn't this a nice time of night to walk? I like to smell things and look at things, and sometimes stay up all night walking and watch the sunrise." They walked on again in silence, and finally she said, thoughtfully, "You know, I'm not afraid of you at all." He was surprised. "Why should you be? So many people are. Afraid of firemen. I mean, but you're just a man, after all. He saw himself in her eyes, suspended in two shining drops of bright water, himself dark and tiny in fine detail, the lines about his mouth, everything there, as if her eyes were two miraculous bits of violet amber that might capture and hold him intact. Her face, turned to him now, was fragile milk crystal with a soft and constant light in it. It was not the hysterical light of electricity, but what? But strangely comfortable and rare and gently flattering light of the candle. One time, as a child in a power failure, his mother had found and lit a last candle, and there had been a brief hour of rediscovery, and such illumination that space lost its vast dimensions and drew comfortably around them, and they, mother and son, alone, transformed, hoping that the power might not come on again too soon. And then Clarence McClellan said, "Do you mind if I ask how long you worked at being a fireman?" "Since I was 20, 10 years ago." "Do you ever read any of the books you burn?" He laughed. "That's against the law." "Oh, of course. It's fine work. Monday burn mealy, Wednesday Whitman, Friday Fulner, burn 'em to ashes, then burn the ashes. That's our official slogan." They walked still further, and the girl said, "Is it true that long ago firemen put fires out instead of going to start them?" "No, houses have always been fireproof. Take my word for it. It's strange. I heard once that a long time ago, houses used to burn by accident and they need firemen to stop the flames." He laughed. She glanced quickly over. "Why are you laughing?" "I don't know." He started to laugh again and stopped. "Why?" "But you laughed when I haven't been funny. And you answered right off. You never stopped to think why I've asked you." He stopped walking. "You are an odd one," he said, looking at her. Montag's getting suspicious. Haven't you any respect?" "I don't mean to be insulting. It's just I love to watch people too much, I guess." "Well, doesn't this mean anything to you?" He tapped the numerals 451 stitched on his charred-colored sleeve. "Yes," she whispered. She increased her pace. Have you ever watched the jet cars racing on the boulevards down that way?" "You're changing the subject. I sometimes think drivers don't know what grass is, or flowers, because they never see them slowly," she said. "If you showed a driver a green blur, 'Oh yes,' he would say, 'that's grass.' A pink blur, that's a rose garden. White blurs are houses. Brown blurs are cows. My uncle drove slowly on the highway once. He drove 40 miles an hour, and they jailed him for 2 days. Isn't that funny and sad too?" "You think too many things," said Montag uneasily. Clarence just talking in circles now, and also bring up other stuff. And also changing the subject. What about some Not really though. I rarely watch the parlor walls or go to races or fun parks, so I've lots of time for crazy thoughts, I guess. Have you seen the 200-foot long billboards in the country beyond town? Did you know that once billboards were only 20 feet long? But cars started rushing by so quickly they had to stretch the advertising out so it would last. I didn't know that. Montag laughed abruptly. But I know something else you don't. There's dew on the grass in the morning. He suddenly couldn't remember if he had known this or not, and it made him quite irritable. And if you look, she nodded at the sky. There's a man on the moon. There's a man in the moon. He hadn't looked for a long time. They walked the rest of the way in silence. Hers thoughtful, his a kind of clinching and uncomfortable silence in which he shot her accusing glances. When they reached her house, all its lights were blazing. What's going on? Montag had rarely seen that many house lights. Oh, just my mother and father and uncle sitting around talking. It's like being a pedestrian, only rarer. My uncle was arrested another time. Did I tell you? For being a pedestrian. Oh, we're most peculiar. Well, what do you talk about? She laughed at this. Good night. She started up her walk. Then she seemed to remember something and came back to look at him with wonder and curiosity. Are you happy? She said. Am I what? He cried. But she was gone, running in the moonlight, her front door shut gently. Clarence is like more aware what's going on with Montag than Montag is to her right now. Like, she's definitely a lot more thoughtful of what's going on. Anyways. Next part. Happy of all the nonsense, he stopped laughing. He put his hand into the glove hole of his front door and let it know his touch. The front door slid open. Of course I'm happy. What does she think? I'm not. He asked the quiet rooms. He stood looking up at the ventilator grill in the hall and suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill. Something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly away. A strange meeting on a strange night. He remembered nothing like it saved one. He remembered nothing like it saved one afternoon a year ago when he had met an old man in the park and they had talked. Montag shook his head. He looked at a blank wall. The girl's face was there, really quite beautiful in memory, astonishing, in fact. She had a very thin face, with the dial of a small clock seen faintly in a dark room in the middle of the night. When you waken to see the time and see the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with a white silence and a glowing all certainty and knowing what it has to tell of the night passing swiftly on toward further darkness, but moving also toward a new sun. What? Asked Montag of that other self, the subconscious idiot that ran blabbering at times, quite independent of will, habit, and consciousness. He glanced back at the wall. How like a mirror to her face. Impossible, for how many people did you know that refracted your own light to you? People were more often. He searched for a smile, found one in his work, torches blazing away until they whiff out. How rarely did other people's faces take off you and throw back to you your own expression, your own inert, most trembling thought. What incredible power of identification the girl had. She was like the eager watcher of a marionette show, anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flick of a finger, the moment before it began. How long had they walked together? 3 minutes? 5? Yet how large that time seemed now. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall. With her slender body, he felt that if his eye twitched, she might blink, and if the muscles of his jaws stretched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. Why, he thought, now that I think of it, she almost seemed to be waiting for me there in the street, so damned late at the night. He opened the bedroom door. It was like coming into a cold, marbled room of a mausoleum after the moon has set. Complete darkness. Not a hint of the silver world outside. The windows tightly shut, the chamber a tomb world with where no sound from the great city could penetrate. The room was not empty. He listened. The little mosquito dancing hum in the air, the electric murmur of a hidden wasp snug in its special pink warm nest. The music was almost loud enough so he could follow the tune. He felt his smile slide away, melt, fold over, and turn on itself like a tallow skin, like the stuff of a fantastic candle burning too long, and now collapsing, and now blown out. Darkness. He was not happy. He was not happy. He said the words to himself. He recognized this as the true state of affairs. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with the mask, and there was no way of going to knock on her door and ask for it back. His happiness was stolen. Without turning on the light, he imagined how this room would look. His wife stretched on the bed, uncovered and cold, like a body displayed on the lid of a tomb, her eyes fixed to the ceiling by invisible threads of steel, immovable, and in her ears the seashells, the thimble radios tamped tight, an electric ocean of sound, of music and talk coming in on the shore. Music and talk coming in on the shore of her unsleeping mind. The room was indeed empty. Every night the waves came in and bore her off on the great tides of sound, floating her wide-eyed toward morning. There had been no night in the last 2 years of Mildred that Mildred had not swum that sea, had not gladly gone down in it for the 3rd time. Got another character introduction. And we've gone through 10 pages now. The room was cold, but nevertheless he felt he could not breathe. He did not wish to open the drapes and open the French windows. or French windows, for he did not want the moon to come into the room. So, with the feeling of a man who will die in the next hour for lack of air, he felt his way toward his open, separate, and therefore cold bed. An instant before his foot hit the object on the floor, he knew he would hit such an object. It was not unlike the feeling he had experienced before turning the corner and almost knocking the girl down. His foot, sending vibrations ahead, received back echoes of the small barrier across its path. Even as the foot swung, his foot kicked. The object gave a dull clang and slid off into darkness. In darkness. He stood very straight and listened to the person on the dark bed in the completely featureless night. The breath coming out of the nostrils. Just gotta shook the camera a bit. The breath coming out of the nostrils was so faint, it stirred only the furthest fringes of life. A small leaf, a black feather, a single fiber of hair. He still did not want outside light. He pulled out his igniter and felt the salamander itched on its silver disc. Gave it a flick. 2 moonstones looked up at him in the light of his small handheld fire. 2 pale moonstones buried in a creek of clear water over which the life of the world ran, not touching them. Mildred. Her face was like a snow-covered island upon which rain might fall, but it felt no rain, over which clouds might pass the moving shadows, but she felt no shadow. There was only the singing of the thimble wasps in her tamped-shut ears, and her eyes all glass, and breath going in and out, softly, faintly, in and out of her nostrils, and her not caring whether it came or went or came. What is going on here? The object he had sent tumbling with his foot now leaned under the edge of his own bed. The small crystal bottle of sleeping tablets, which earlier today had been filled with 30 capsules and which now laid uncapped and empty in the light of the tiny flare. As he stood there, the sky over the house screamed. There was a tremendous rippling sound as if 2 giant hands had torn 10,000 miles of black linen down the stem. Montag was cut in half. He felt his chest chopped down and split apart. What is going on here? The jet bombers going over. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 6 of them, 9 of them, 12 of them, one and one and one and one another and another and another and another. Did all the screaming for him. He opened his own mouth and let the shriek come down and out between his bare teeth. The house shook. The flare went out in his hand. The moonstones vanished. He felt his hand plunge into the telephone. The jets were gone. He felt his lips move, brushing the mouthpiece of the phone. Emergency hospital. A terrible whisper. He felt that the stars had been pulverized by the sound of the black jets, and that in the morning the earth would be covered with their dust like a strange snow. That was his idiot thought as he stood shivering in the dark and let his lips go on. Moving and moving. They had 2 machines, really. One of them slid down into your stomach like a black cobra down an echoing well, looking for all the old water and the old time gathered there. It drank up the green matter that floated to the top in a slow boil. Did it drink off the darkness? Did it suck out all the poisons accumulated with the years? It fed in silence with an occasional sound of inner suffocation and blind searching. It had an eye. The impersonal operator of the machine could, by wearing a special optical helmet, gaze into the soul of the person whom he was pumping out. What did the eye see? He did not say. He saw, but did not see what the eye saw. The entire operation was not unlike the dragging of a trench in one's yard. The woman on the bed was no more than a hard stratum of marble they had reached. Go on, anyway. Shove the board down, slush up the emptiness. If such a thing could be brought out in the throb of the suction in snake. The operator stood smoking a cigarette. The other machine was working too. I feel like I just read a whole lot of. I'm gonna need time to straight up process what I read there. Like, what? Okay, so. There's two machines, and one slid down into your stomach like black cobra. And then it fed in the silence with an occasional sound of inner suffocation and blind searching. Basically, an eye or like a camera, and it just sees what's inside the stomach. I'm gonna need to process that later on, but we're just gonna keep reading. And also, I'm thinking of now. Been reading for going on for 53 minutes in this live stream, so I guess we're just gonna go to. When's the next part? Is gonna be. Not spoiling anything, but let's see. You know what, we're just gonna, I think for today, we're just gonna read all the way to page 30, and then we're just gonna be calling off the stream, because I don't think we'll be, first of all, reading the entire book, and also I don't think I'll be reading the entire first chapter of the book right away. But yeah, let's just continue on. The other machine, operated by an equally impersonal fellow in non-stainable reddish-brown coveralls. This machine pumped all of the blood from the body and replaced it with fresh blood and serum. Gotta clean it out both ways, said the operator, standing over the silent woman. No use of getting the stomach if you don't clean the blood. Leave that stuff in the blood, and the blood hits the brain like a mallet. Bang! A couple thousand times, and the brain just gives up. It quits. Stop it, said Montag. I was just saying, said the operator. Are you done, said Montag. They shut the machines up tight. We're done. His anger did not even touch them. They stood with the cigarette smoke curling around their noses and into their eyes without making them blink or squint. That's $50. First, why don't you tell me if she'll be alright? Sure, she'll be Okay, we got all the main stuff of right in our suitcase here. It can't get at her. It can't get at her now. As I said, you take out the old and put in the new, and you're okay. Neither of you is an MD. Hey, why didn't they send an MD from emergency? Hell. The operator's cigarette moved on his lip. We get these cases 9 or 10 a night. Got so many starting a few years ago. We had the special machines built with the optical lenses, of course. That was new. The rest is ancient. You don't need an MD. Case like this, all you need is 2 handymen. Clean up the problem in half an hour. Look. He started for the door. We're gonna go. Just had another call on the old earphumber. 10 blocks from here. Someone else just jumped off the cab, up of a pillbox. Call if you need us again. Keep her quiet. We got a contraceptive in her. She'll wake up hungry so long. And the men with the cigarettes in their straight-lined mouths. The men with the eyes of puff adders. It took up their load of machine and tube, their case of liquid, melancholy, and the slow, dark sludge of nameless stuff, and strolled out the door. Right, so they are there to help Montag's wife or something. Is she paralyzed? She's currently like paralyzed, being at home, right? Anyways, Montag sat down into a chair and looked at this woman. Her eyes were closed now, gently, and he put out his hand to feel the warmness of breath on his palm. Mildred, he said at last. There are too many of us, he thought. There are billions of us, and that's too many. No one knows anyone. Strangers come and violate you. Strangers come and cut your heart out. Strangers come and take your blood. Good God, who were those men? I never saw them before in my life. Half an hour passed. The bloodstream in this woman was new, and it seemed to have a new thing to her. Her cheeks were very pink, and her lips were very fresh and full of color, and they looked soft and relaxed. Someone else's blood there. If only someone else's flesh and brain and memory. If only they could have taken her mind along to the dry cleaners and emptied the pockets and steamed and cleansed it and reblocked it and brought it back in the morning. If only. Mildred's got some problems. He got up and put the drapes and opened the windows wide to let the night air in. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Was it only an hour ago? Clarence McClellan in the street and him coming in. The dark room and his foot kicking the little crystal bottle. Only an hour, but the word had melted down and sprung up in a new colorless form. Talking so loud, if like an hour and also reading, that's gotta release some gases. Anyways, he got up and put the drapes and put back the drapes and opened the windows wide to let the night air in. We got through this. Laughter blew across the moon-colored lawn from the house of Clarence and her father and mother and the uncle, who smiled so quietly and so earnestly. Above all, their laughter was relaxed and hearty, and not forced in any way, coming from the house that was so brightly lit this late at night, while all the other houses were kept to themselves in darkness. Montag heard the voices talking, giving, talking, weaving, reweaving the hypnotic web. Montag moved out through the French windows and crossed the lawn without even thinking of it. Just gonna contact Clarence again. He stood outside the talking house in the shadows, thinking he might even tap on the door and whisper, "Let me come in. I won't say anything. I just want to listen. What is it you're saying?" But instead he stood there, very cold, his face a mask of ice, listening to a man's voice, the uncle, moving along at an easy pace. Well, after all, this is the age of the disposable tissue. Blow your nose on a person, wad them, flush them away, reach for another, blow, wad, flush, everyone using everyone else's coattails. How are you supposed to root for the home team when you don't even have a program or know the names? For that matter, what color jerseys are they wearing as they trot out on the field? Montag moved back to his own house, left the window wide, checked Mildred, tucked the covers about her carefully, and then laid down with the moonlight on his cheekbones and on the frowning ridges of his brow. With the moonlight distinct in each eye, to form a silver cataract there. One drop of rain, Clarence, and another drop, Mildred, a third, the uncle, a fourth, the fire tonight. One, Clarence, two, Mildred, three, uncle, four, fire, one, Mildred, two, Clarence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Clarence, Mildred, uncle, fire, sleeping tablets, men, disposable tissue, coattails, blow, water, flush, Clarence, as Mildred, uncle, fire, tablets, tissues, blow, water, flush, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It rained, the storm, the uncle laughing, the thunder falling downstairs, the whole world pouring down, the fire gushing up in the volcano, all rushing on down around a sprouting rout, in a sprouting roar, and the rivering stream toward morning. I don't know anything anymore, he said, and let lozenge dissolve on his tongue. What is this line of dialogue? At 9 in the morning, Mildred's bed was empty. Montag got up quickly, his heart pumping, and ran down the hall and stopped at the kitchen door. Toast popped out of the silver toaster, was seized by a spidery metal hand that drenched it with melted butter. Mildred washed the toast delivered to her plate. She had both ears plugged with electronic bees that were humming the hour away. She looked up suddenly, saw him, and nodded. "You all right?" he asked. She was an expert at lip reading from 10 years of apprenticeship at seashell ear tremblings. She nodded again. She sat the toaster, clicking away at another piece of bread. Montag sat down. His wife said, "I don't know why I should be so hungry. I'm hungry." Last night, he began. "Didn't sleep well. Felt terrible," she said. "God, I'm hungry. I can't figure it out." Last night, he said again. She washed his lips casually. What about last night? Don't you remember? What? Did we have a wild party or something? I feel like I have a hangover. God, I'm hungry. Who was here? A few people, he said. That's what I thought. He chewed his toast. She chewed her toast. Sore stomach, but I'm hungry as all get out. Hope I didn't do anything foolish at the hope I didn't do anything foolish at the party. I don't think last night was a party, pal. No, he said quietly. The toaster spirted out a piece of buttered bread for him. He held it in his hand, feeling obligated. You don't look so hot yourself, said his wife. In the late afternoon, it rained, and the entire world was gray. He stood in the hall of his house, putting on his badge with the orange salamander burning across it. He stood looking up at the air conditioning vent in the hall for a long time. His wife, in the TV parlor, paused long enough from reading her script to glance up. Hey, she said. The man's thinking. Yes, he said. I want to talk to you. He paused. You took all the pills in your bottle last night. Oh, I wouldn't do that, she said, surprised. The bottle was empty. I wouldn't do a thing like that. Why would I do a thing like that? She said. Maybe you took 2 pills and forgot. Maybe you took 2 pills and forgot and took 2 more and forgot again and took 2 more and were so dopey you kept right on until you had 30 or 40 of them in you. Heck, she said. What would I want to go and do a silly thing like that for? I don't know, he said. She was quite obviously waiting for him to go. I didn't do that, she said. Never in a billion years. All right, if you say so, he said. That's what the ladies. Yet she turned back to her script. What's on this afternoon? He asked tiredly. She didn't look up from the script again. Well, this is a play comes from the wall-to-wall circuit in 10 minutes. They mailed me my part this morning. I sent in some box tops. They write the script with 1 part missing. It's a new idea. The homemaker, that's me, is the missing part. When it comes time for the missing lines, they all look at me out of the 3 walls, and I say the lines. Here, for instance, the man says, "What do you think of this whole idea, Helen?" And he looks at me sitting here, center stage. See? And I say, she paused and ran her finger under a line on the script. I think that's fine. And then they go on with the play until he says, "Do you agree to that, Helen?" And I say, "I sure do. Isn't that fun, Guy?" He stood in the hall looking at her. "It's sure fun," she said. "What's the play about?" "I just told you. There are these people named Bob, Rumpf, and Helen. Oh, it's really fun. It'll be more fun when we can afford to have the 4th wall installed." "Oh, how long do you figure before we saved up and get the 4th wall torn out and a 4th wall TV put in?" "It's only $2,000. That's a third of my yearly pay." "It's only $2,000, she replied. "And I should think you consider me sometimes. If we had a 4th wall, why would it be just like this room wasn't ours at all, but all kinds of exotic people's rooms? We could do without a few things. We're already doing without a few things to pay for the 3rd wall. It was put in only 2 months ago, remember? Is it Is that all it was? She sat looking at him for a long moment. Well, goodbye, dear. Goodbye, he said. He stopped and turned around. Does it have a happy ending? I haven't read that far. He walked over and read the last page, nodded and folded the script and handed it back to her. He walked out of the house and into the rain. Looks like we got something famous and infamously known in this book. The straight up living room with the 3 TV screens just surrounding Mildred. And they're about to get the 4th TV wall installed. And the last one, the 3rd one, was just installed like 2 months ago. And also TVs back in the day were $2,000. And TV is costing like $2,000. There's no indication as to how big the TVs are. But for $2,000, I would say it just covers like half of the space that is I would say it just covers half the space of whatever space is available on the wall. But yeah. Let's continue. The rain was thinning away and the girl was walking in the center of the sidewalk with her head up and a few drops falling on her face. She smiled when she saw Montag. Hello. He said hello and then said, what are you up to now? I'm still crazy. The rain feels good. I love to walk in it. I don't think I'll like that, he said. You might if you tried. I never had. She licked her lips. Rain even tastes good. What do you do? Go around trying everything at once? Going around. What do you do? Go around on trying everything at once? He asked. Sometimes twice he looked at something in her hand. What have you got there? He said. I guess it's the last of the dandelions this year. I didn't think I would find one on the lawn this late. Have you ever heard of rubbing it under your chin? Look. She touched her chin with the flower, laughing. Why? If it rubs off, it means I'm in love. Has it? He could hardly do anything else but look. Well, she said, you're yellow under there. Fine, let's try you now. It won't work for me. Here, before he could move, she had put the dandelion under his chin. He drew back and she laughed. Hold still. She peered under his chin and frowned. Well, he said. What a shame, she said. You're not in love with anyone. Yes, I am. It doesn't show. I am very much in love. He tried to conjure up a face to fit the words, but there was no face. I am. Oh, please, don't look that way. It's that dandelion, he said. You've used it all up on yourself. That's why it won't work for me. Of course, that must be it. Oh, now I've upset you. I can see I have. I'm sorry, really, I am. She touched his elbow. No, he said quickly. I'm all right. I've got to be going. So say you forgive me. I don't want you angry with me. I'm not angry. Upset. Yes. I've got to go to see my psychiatrist now. They make me go. I make up things to say. I don't know what he thinks of me. He says I'm a regular onion. I keep him busy, peeling away the layers. I'm inclined to believe you need the psychiatrist, said Montag. You don't mean that. He took a breath and let it out, and at last said, No, I don't mean that. The psychiatrist wants to know why I go out and hike around in the forest and watch the birds and collect butterflies. I'll show you my collection someday. Good. They want to know what I do with all my time. I tell them that sometimes I just sit and think. But I won't tell them what. I've got them running, and sometimes I tell them I like to put my head back like this and let the rain fall in my mouth. It tastes just like wine. Have you ever tried it? No. You have forgotten me, haven't you? Yes, he thought about. Yes, I have. God knows why. You're peculiar. You're aggravating. Yet you're easy to forgive. You say you're 17. Well, next month. How odd. How strange. And my wife 30, and yet you seem so much older at times. I can't get over it. You're peculiar yourself, Mr. Montag. Sometimes I even forget you're a fireman. Now, may I make you angry again? Go ahead. How did it start? How did you get into it? How did you pick up your work? And how did you happen to think to take the job you have? You're not like the others. I've seen a few. I know. When I talk, you look at me. When I said something about the moon, you looked at the moon. Last night, the others would never do that. The others would walk off and leave me talking, or threaten me. No one has time anymore for anyone else. You're one of the few who put up with me. That's why I think it's so strange you're a fireman. It just doesn't seem right for you, somehow. Clarence really showing. He knows something deep inside Montag right now. He felt his body divide itself into a hotness and a coldness, a softness and a hardness, a trembling and a not trembling, the two halves grinding one upon the other. You had better run on to your appointment, he said. And she ran off and left him standing there in the rain. Only after a long time did he move. And then, very slowly, as he walked, he tilted his head back in the rain. For just a few moments, and opened his mouth. The mechanical hound slept, but did not sleep. Lived, but did not live in its gently humming, gently vibrating, softly illuminated. Back in a dark corner of the firehouse. The dim light of 1 in the morning, the moonlight from the open sky framed through the great window, touched here and there on the brass and the copper and the steel of the faintly trembling beast. Light flickered on bits of ruby glass and on sensitive capillary hairs in the nylon brushed nostrils of the creature that quivered gently. Its eight legs spidered under it on rubber padded paws. Montag slid down the brass pole. He went out to look at the city, and the clouds had cleared away completely. And he lit a cigarette and came back to bend down and look at the hound. It was like a great bee come home from some field where the honey is full of poison, wildness, and of insanity and nightmare, its body crammed with that over-rich nectar, and now it was sleeping the evil out of itself. "Hello," whispered Montag, fascinated as always with the dead beast, the living beast. Nights when things got dull, which was every night, the men slid down the brass poles and set the tackling combinations of the olfactory system of the hound and let loose rats in the firehouse areaway, and sometimes chickens, and sometimes cats that will have to be drowned anyway, and there would be betting to see which of the cats or chickens or rats the hound would seize first. Just checking OBS. Anyways, nights when things got dull, which was every night, the men sit down. Its first ceased. The animals were turned loose. 3 seconds later, the game was done. The rat, cat, or chicken caught half across the airway, gripped and gently paused, while a 4-inch hollow steel needle plunged down from the prosthetics of the hound to inject massive jolts of morphine or procaine. The pawn was then tossed in the incinerator. A new game began. Montag stayed upstairs most nights when this went on. There had been a time 2 years ago when he had bet with the best of them, and lost a week's salary and faced Mildred's insane anger, which showed itself in veins and blotches. But now, nights he lay in his bunk, face turned to the wall, listening to the whoops of laughter below, and the piano string scurry of rat feet, the violent squeaking of mouse, the great shattering, motioned silence of the hound leaping out of a moth in the raw light, holding its victim, inserting needle, and going back to its kill. It's cut. To die as if a switch had been turned on. Montag touched the muzzle. The hound groaned. Montag jumped back. The hound half rose in its kill and looked at him with green-blue neon light flickering in its suddenly activated eyeballs. It groaned again, a strange rasping combination of electric sizzle, a frying sound, a scraping of metal, a turning of cogs that seemed rusty and ancient. A turning of cogs that seemed rusty and ancient with suspicion. No, boy, he said. No, boy, said Montag, his heart pounding. He saw the silver needle extend upon the air an inch, pull back, extend, pull back. The ground simmered in the beast, and it looked at him. Montag backed up. The hound took a step from his kennel. Montag grabbed the brass pole with one hand. The pole, reacting, slid upward and took him through the ceiling quietly. He stepped off in the half-lit deck of the upper level. He was trembling and his face was green-white. And below, the hound had snuck back down upon its incredible insect legs and was humming to itself again, its multifaceted eyes at peace. Montag stood, letting the fears pass, by the drop hole. Behind him, 4 men at a card table under a green lit light in the corner glanced briefly but said nothing. Only the man with the captain's hat and the sign of the phoenix on his hat, at last, curious, his playing cards in his thin hand, talked across the long room. Montag? It doesn't like me, said Montag. What? The hound? The captain studied his cards. Come off it. It doesn't like or dislike. It just functions. It's like a lesson in ballistics. It has a trajectory we decide on for it. It follows through, targets itself, homes itself, and cuts off. It's only copper wire, storage batteries, and electricity. Montag swallowed. Its calculators can be set to any combination. So many amino acids, so much sulfur, so much butterfat and alkaline. Right? We all know that. All of those chemical balances and percentages on all of us here in the house are recorded in the master file downstairs. It would be easy for someone to set up a partial combination on the hound's memory. A touch of amino acids, perhaps, that would account for what the animal just did. That would account for what the animal did just now. Reacted toward me. Hell, said the captain. Irritated, but not completely angry. Just enough memory set up in it by someone so it groaned when I touched it. Who would do a thing like that? Asked the captain. You haven't any enemies here, Guy. None of that I know of. We'll have the hound checked by our technicians tomorrow. This isn't the first time it's threatened me, said Montag. Last month it happened twice. We'll fix it up, don't worry. But Montag did not move and only stood thinking of the ventilator grill in the hall at home and what lay hidden behind the grill. If someone here in the firehouse knew about the ventilation, then mightn't they tell the hound? So like the hound is like God. The hound is like the fire truck that Montag and the fire station crew uses to start fires and burn books. But Montag's feel like instead of it just being a machine, just copper wires, battery storage, and electricity, it's kind of like a living being. I'll get back to it. The captain came over to the drop hole and gave Montag a questioning glance. I was just figuring, said Montag. What does the hound think about down there nights? Is it coming alive on us? Really, it makes me cold. It doesn't think anything we don't want it to think. That's sad, said Montag quietly, because all we put into it is hunting and finding and killing. What a shame if that's all it can ever know. BT snorted gently. Hell, it's a fine bit of craftsmanship. A good rifle that can fetch its own target and guarantees the bullseye every time. That's why, said Montag, I wouldn't want to be its next victim. Why? You got a guilty consciousness or something? Montag glanced up swiftly. BT stood there looking at him steadily with his eyes, while his mouth opened and began to laugh softly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and as many times he came out of the house and Clarence was there somewhere in the world. Once he saw her shaking a walnut tree. Once he saw her sitting on the lawn knitting a blue sweater. 3 or 4 times he found a bouquet of late flowers on his porch, or a handful of chestnuts in a little sack, or some autumn leaves neatly pinned to a sheet of white paper and thumbtacked to his door. Every day, Clarence walked him to the corner. One day it was raining. The next it was clear. The day after that, the wind blew strong. And the day after that, it was mild and calm. And the day after that, calm day was a day like the furnace of summer, and Clarence, with her face all sunburnt by late afternoon. Pretty much repeating what we have seen at the start for like a week now. Bit of a fast forward bit. And Montag's crew is like getting a bit suspicious, I would say. Also, we're getting close to finishing the stream. Why is it, he said, one time at the subway entrance, I feel I've known you so many years. Because I like you, she said, as a 16-year-old. And I don't want anything from you. And because we know each other, you make me feel very old and very much like a father. Now you explain, she said. Why you haven't any daughters like me? If you love children so much, I don't know. You're joking. I mean, he stopped and shook his head. Well, my wife, she just never wanted any children at all. The girl stopped smiling. I'm sorry, I really thought you were having fun at my expense. I'm a fool. No, he said. It was a good question. It's been a long time since anyone cared enough to ask a good question. Let's talk about something else. Have you ever smelled old leaves? Don't they smell like cinnamon? Here, smell. Why, yes, it is like cinnamon in a way. She looked at him with her clear dark eyes. You always seem shook. It's just I haven't had time. Did you look at the stretched out billboards like I told you? I think so, yes. He had to laugh. Your laugh sounds much nicer than it did. Does it? Much more relaxed. He felt at ease and comfortable. Aren't you in school? I see you every day wandering around. Oh, they don't miss me, she said. I'm antisocial, they say. I don't mix. It's so strange. I'm very social indeed. And it all depends on what you mean by social, does it? And it all depends on what you mean by social, doesn't it? Social, to me, means talking to you about things like this. She rattled some chestnuts that had fallen off the tree in the front yard. Or talking about how strange the world is. Being with people is nicer, but I don't think it's social to get a bunch of people together and then not let them talk, do you? An hour of TV class, an hour of basketball or baseball or running, another hour of transcription history or painting pictures or more sports. Do you know, we never ask questions, or at least most don't. They just run the answers at you. Bing, 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 and us sitting there for 4 more hours of film teacher. That's not social to me at all. It's a lot of funnels and a lot of water poured down the spout and out the bottom, and them telling us it's wine when it's not. They run us so ragged by the end of the day we can't do anything but go to bed or head for a fun park to bully people around, break window panes in the window smasher, break window panes in the window smasher place, or wreck cars in the car wrecker place with the big steel ball, or go out in the cars and race on the streets, trying to see how close you can get to the lamppost. Playing chicken and knock hubcaps. I guess I'm everything they say. I am, alright. I haven't any friends. That's supposed to prove I'm abnormal. But everyone I know is either shouting or dancing around like wild or beating up one another. Do you notice how people hurt each other nowadays? You sound so very old. Sometimes I'm ancient. I'm afraid of children my own age. They kill each other. Did it always used to be that way? My uncle says no. 6 of my friends have been shot in the last year alone. Ah yes, 6 of your friends have been shot in the last year alone. Very casual thing to say when it seems like you and Montag are just only getting along in within 2 weeks. But yeah, anyway. 6 of my friends have been shot in the last year alone. 10 of them died in a car crash. 10 of them died in car wrecks, and it gets worse. I'm afraid of them, and they don't like me because I'm afraid. My uncle says his grandfather remembered when children didn't kill each other, but that was a long time ago, when they had things different. They believed in responsibility, my uncle says. Do you know, I'm responsible. I was spanked when I needed it. I was spanked when I was needed years ago, and I do all the shopping and house cleaning by hand. But most of all, she said, I like to watch people. Sometimes I ride the subway all day and look at them and listen to them. I just want to figure out who they are and what they want and where they're going. Sometimes I even go to the fun parks and ride in the jet cars when they race on the edge of town at midnight, and the police don't care as long as they're insured. As long as everyone has 10,000 insurance, everyone's happy. Sometimes I sneak around and listen in subways, or I listen at soda fountains, and do you know what? What? People don't talk about anything. Oh, they must. No, not anything. They name a lot of cars or clothes or swimming pools mostly and say swell. But they all say the same things and nobody says anything different from anyone else. And most of the time in the cafes, they have joke boxes on and the same jokes most of the time, or the musical wall lit and all the colored patterns running up and down. It's only color and all abstract. And at the museums, have you ever been all abstract? That's all there is. That's all there is now. My uncle says it was different once. A long time back, sometimes pictures said things, or even showed people. Your uncle said. Your uncle said. Your uncle said. Your uncle must be a remarkable man. He is. He certainly is. Well, I got to be going. Goodbye, Mr. Montag. Goodbye. Goodbye. Really getting to the core stuff that this book is kind of offering right now. It's not like the main thing. Like, there are several stuff to be offered, but this is one of the few ones we are encountering right now. Okay, 2 more pages before. Actually, this is a new section. We're just gonna continue to. We reach page 30, and before my throat gives out after reading for like over an hour now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. The firehouse. Montag, you shit that pole like a bird up there. Like a bird up a tree. 3rd day. Montag, I see you came in the back door this time. The hound bother you? No. 4th day. Montag, a funny thing. Heard tell this morning. A fireman in Seattle purposely set a mechanical hound to his own chemical complex and let it loose. What kind of suicide would you call that? 5, 6, 7 days. And then Clarence was gone. He didn't know what there was about the afternoon, but it was not seeing her somewhere in the world. The lawn was empty, the trees empty, the street empty, and while at first he did not even know he missed her or was even looking for her, the fact was that by the time he reached the subway, there were vague stirrings of dis-ease in him. Something was the matter. His routine had been disturbed. A simple routine, true, established in a short few days. And yet, he almost turned back to make the walk again, to give her time to appear. He was certain if he tried the same route, everything would work out fine. But it was late. The arrival of his train put a stop to his plans. The flutter of cards. Motion of hands, of eyelids, the drone of the time voice in the firehouse ceiling. 1:35, Thursday morning, November 4th, 1:36, 1:37 a.m. The tick of the playing cards on the greasy tabletop. All the sounds came to Montag. Behind his closed eyes, behind the barrier he had momentarily erected, he could feel the firehouse full of glitter and shine and silence, of brass colors, the colors of coins, of gold, of silver. The unseen men across the table were sighting on their cards, waiting. 1:45. The voice clock mourned out the cold hour of a cold morning of a still colder year. What's wrong, Montag? Montag opened his eyes. A radio hummed somewhere. War may be declared any hour. This country stands ready to defend its. The firehouse trembled as a great flight of jet planes whistled a single note across the black morning sky. Are the jet planes that are passing by are just indications that there is like a war going on while all this is happening? Like in earlier parts, we could see there are times when, or at least one time, I guess, when Montag was back at his home, when jet planes were just flying past. And here it is again, and it's now indicating there is going to be a war, or there is war going on right now. Right, okay. Montag blinked. Beatty was looking at him as if he were a museum statue, At any moment, Beatty might rise and walk about him, touching, exploring his guilt and self-consciousness. Guilt? What guilt was that? You play, Montag. Montag looked at these men whose faces were sunburnt by 1,000 real and 10,000 imagery fires, whose work flushed their cheeks and fevered their eyes. These men who looked steadily into the platinum igniter flames as they lit their eternally burning black pipes, they and their charcoal hair and soot-colored brows and blush ash-smeared cheeks, where they had shaven close. But the heritage showed. Montag started up, his mouth opened. Had he ever seen a fireman that didn't have black hair, black brows, a fiery smile, a fiery face, and a blue steel shaved but unshaved look? These men were all mirror images of himself. Were all firemen picked then for the looks as well as their precipities, the color of cylinders and ash about them, and the continual smell of burning from their pipes. Captain Beatty there, rising in thunderheads of tobacco smoke, Beatty opening a fresh tobacco packet, crumbling the cellophane into a sound of fire. Dear God. And that is, I believe, a fifth of the way through the book. And that's also page 30 of Fahrenheit 451. Been reading for so long that gas is just built up in my stomach. I have to burp them out. Anyways, that was the first 30 pages of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. We have met three main characters. One is Guy Montag. The other is Clarence McClellan, and then Montag's wife, Mildred Montag. And then we also met another character, I guess. We met a total of 4 characters. It's the first 3 I mentioned, and also Captain Beatty, the captain of his crew, where Montag is part of in the operations for the fire station. As far as I have read and processed the stuff that's gone on, Clarence really just showed up to Montag one day and then just was like, yo, have you ever fought? And then just spent the next half a month just talking to Montag, just putting up a lot of questions and discussing about a lot of stuff, while we also get a showcase of Montag's life and some elements of this universe. But I think we're just gonna leave it off with Montag realizing and noticing something about his fireman crew. So yeah, next we're going to continue all the way to I think the next live stream is going to be about continuing on from page 31 all the way until we finish this chapter. But until then, that shall be the end of this live stream. Good God. Ugh. Had to stretch. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you did, please make sure to click on the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel if you like my videos. But also comment on the videos and community posts to get your chance of being in shoutouts and leaving your mark on my YouTube channel's history. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next live stream. Bye.